Welcome back to part 3 of the KHAZARS Adopted Judaism. And we're right here from Iran to the KHAZARS. Okay, these names keep popping up, but the Cossack line is where they were stopped a lot of the times because of the Caucasus Mountains. Did they become the Cossacks? I'm not sure. But they hated the Russians so much that in 1917 they killed the Tsar, the Russian Tsar, Romanov family. They stole all their jewels, and that's what started the Soviet Union, basically, and the communist bloc by Trotsky, and then Lenin and his men. Marxism all came into effect through that. We'll get into that another day. I'm going to go over the Communist Manifesto and what they were really trying to do to our Christian principles. Because Russians were the truest Christians on the planet, pretty much, besides some of the true Christian church that was developed over in England by Joseph of Arimathea, and Jeremiah bringing the laws, the common law, to the land. But in 1917, the Russian Revolution happened, and they took away Christianity from Russia. They tried to. And hence, it seems they go right into the Russian Revolution, 1917, the Tsar system, and how they basically killed 60 million Christians, blood running in the streets by the Bolshevik Marxist socialists. Okay? They hate Christianity, and they hated the Russians for what they did to the KHAZARS, and they took them out. The Bolshevik Russia back then. Look, above the Caspian and the Black Sea, they're very interested in taking back over their area, which I believe that's who the people behind the Bolshevik Revolution were. Khazarian Judaists, communists, Genghis Khan's successors and cousins. What needs to be known as the precursor to the League of Nations, because in 1917 they came out with the Balfour Declaration at the same time the Russian Revolution and the First World War. They get everyone confused, and they're trying to make a homeland for the Judeans back in 1917. But before that was the Zionist movement, which is in 1898, and they started the Pale of Settlements in the 1900s. Remember the Habsburgs, big name for the Illuminati families. And the KHAZARS culminating their Zionism and Arab-Israeli conflicts to then take over the trade route of the world. Beside Mongolia, we had Kazakhs. They were nomads, okay, and they were living in the area, and about 5 million of them settled in Kazakhstan, or now became known as Kazakhstan. But having said that, going down to this guy here, I believe, okay, he supposedly wrote down the Mishnah or something like that. Didn't come out till the written law didn't come out till 200 AD. All right, they didn't have the Mishnah until 200 AD. They didn't have the Talmud till 500 AD, and then they say the Bible because it was written around 300 AD, but it was written by all these guys. But besides that, what does it say about KHAZARS? Turkic and Iranian tribes from the Caucasus who founded a major trading empire in southern Russia in the 6th century AD. In 737, They moved the capital north to Itil, near the mouth of Volga, adopted the Jewish religion, and started massive westward expansion. At their peak in the late 8th century, they ruled a huge area from Hungary and beyond Kiev, almost to Moscow. Two Byzantine emperors, Justinian II in 704 and Constantine V in 732, took Khazar wives. The Khazars were crushed by, there's that name again, the Russian Vikings, Sviatoslav, in 965. Hopefully I don't have to go into a part 4. But look at this word, Tatar, also spelled Tartar. First round in the inscription of 731, a name came to be applied to the forces of Genghis Khan and his successors in Europe, who was confused with Tartarus, the classical hell, which seemed an appropriate place of origin for these dreadful hordes. Remember, the Golden Horde of Genghis Khan. The name was later loosely and actively applied to some of the Turkic peoples of the Russian Empire, for example, Volga Tatars, Crimean Tatars. Remember, they wanted to take over the Crimea and the Volga River, right? The KHAZARS. At the present time, there is a Tatar autonomous republic within the Russian Federation with its capital at Kazan on the Volga. Remember, the Khanate of Kazan. Tatars, Tartars. Okay, so don't get this confused. These guys took over Europe, successors in Europe. And his successors. And in Europe was confused with Tartarus. Okay. But basically, they moved westward. And why do the elites hate Akhenaton? Because, and they're always bringing up Tutankhamun, king of Egypt's 18th dynasty of uncertain parentage, right? As a child, he succeeded his brother Semakara, who had been a co-regent and successor to Akhenaton. During his reign, 1345-1335 BC, the worship of the old god suppressed by Akhenaton was restored in 1922. His long-lost tomb was discovered almost intact by the British archaeologist Howard Carter. Okay, so basically, they're always bringing up Akhenaton and Aton because Aton is the one god. He promoted the one god and true monotheism. But there's a lot of controversy around him. That will be another story for another day. So with 2 minutes left, let's see how much I can get through of this wonderful time chart history of the Jewish civilization, but only of the KHAZAR sections. So I'll just flip through it quickly, just so you can see it. It's quite beautifully well done. But if you believe that these guys never took on Judaism, there they are, the Khazar Knight. Judaism spreads to Russia. The stable, relatively wealth of Kingdom of Khazar between the Black Sea and Caspian Sea becomes officially Jewish. Okay, the Radhanites are working as far away as India and China. These are Jewish merchants known as Radhanites. These are Khazarian Jews that are still controlling the trade routes. Okay, 965, the Viking Rus who gave their name to Russia begin to conquer Khazar lands. Okay, Jews spread out in Eastern Europe and known as the Ashkenaz. France and Germany, Yiddish language begins to develop. More people also go to England. This I will get into in the next part, but how? The Ashkenaz is really the Ashkenazi, and the Ashkenaz were only a small part of German Jews, but the Ashkenazi are the Russian Jews that became, or the Khazarian Jews that took on the Judean religion, and there was millions of them. That being said, that's where the million Jews came from. Millions of them.